Hello friends, Tanya here for Spellbinders, and today I am doing the BetterPress registration release. This came out here in February. We're going to start with the thank you blooms. This is a set of plates that you can use this guide to do multicolor BetterPressing. So I'm going to tape this paper guide onto my plate for my BetterPress system, and I'm going to lay each plate in the right spot to create this pattern. I've got the new BetterPress inks here, the Jet Set and the Tropical. I'm going to use Thunder, which is a light, well no, it's a dark gray, and we're going to do a little ombre inking here. I'm going to ink the entire thank you with the gray and with Thunder, and then I'm going to tip this pad a little on its edge and ink the lower portions of each of these words with the BetterPress black. Now that I have that all inked up, I have a 4.5 by 6 inch piece of watercolor cardstock here, and that is how it came through, absolutely crisp as can be. Next, I'm going to take the larger flowers and place those on the registration or our guide. And the guide that comes in yours will be clear plastic with colored lines, like on the cards or the paper here. But I got an early release and they did not, of course, have the clear acetates in there. Now for this grouping, actually I put all of the flowers on here. There are 2 more plates that are not used on this yet, and that's the leaves. I'm taking 2 different pinks and 2 different teals here, teal or aquas, and I'm doing some two-tone inking on these plates. The larger plates are getting the pinks, and the smaller plates or smaller flowers are getting the aqua or teals. I start with the lighter color, cover the entire plate, and then come back with the darker color and add that in a few spots. I'm trying to do either from bottom darker to top lighter or in the center. So we'll run this through the die machine and look at that. More stunning images, and it's lining up perfectly. So I'll remove those, and as you can see, I did tape my registration guide to the platform so that it does not shift or move, so everything stays in the right spot. I don't have any green BetterPress inks, so I'm using some Distress Oxides. They work fantastic on these plates. I've got Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn, and I'm doing a little two-tone inking on these also. We'll place our plate back on top, run that through, and look at that. Oh, I just love how that turned out. We're going to use the Essential Stylish Ovals. We're going to take the second from largest oval and tape that to our watercolor paper and run that through the die cut machine, and we've got this gorgeous BetterPressed piece. Next, I took a 4.5 by 6.5 inch piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to use those same colors that we used on the BetterPress plates to create our background. I'm just doing some real easy direct to paper inking, and I'm not trying to get anything really smooth or beautiful because we're going to do some other things to this. I'm going to take the embossing folder from November's kit, Meandering Floral, and we're going to run that through. And then we're going to take some Pearl Luster Gilding Polish and use that to highlight the embossing on here. I love these. They have a built-in applicator, and it is so easy to apply these, and they dry very fast. The impact is really stunning, and this Pearl Luster just adds kind of a white silver highlight to the areas that you run this over. This is one of my favorite colors, and if you've been watching me for very long, you know I use it a ton. There you can see the detail of the embossing just shine right through. I did add some extra cardstock to the back of this panel, and now we're going to glue this to the card base, and this is of course a 5x7 card. I have been moving more and more to just about only doing 5x7 cards. Sometimes I like to do some of the smaller cards, but this design definitely needs to be A2 or larger. We'll center this on the front of the card, and I love how the colors in the background match the colors on the Thank You beautiful BetterPress panel perfectly. Now I did dig through my stuff and found this BetterPress plates and dies set. This is called Flower Stems. This came out probably 2-3 months ago, and they coordinate perfectly with the flowers in this thank you set. So I'm going to use the same colors, and we'll do some multicolored inking on these plates. I'm going to use the 2 pinks on these larger flowers. Again, starting with the lighter pink, and I think it's taffy and garnet is what I'm using. And then I'm using this lighter color here. And why can't I remember the names of these? There's one from each of the different sets here. I tried to add some of the aqua to the base of that flower, and that it just didn't show up. So we'll stick with adding garnet to those. Next, we're going to take some greens. This is the Twisted Citron, and I will come back with the Mowed Lawn and add some highlights with that. Now these have their own coordinating dies, which is going to make them even more flexible. I did debate about using these to create a background, which easily could have been done. I thought about glimmer hot foiling them on some pink with gold foil. That would have been really lovely. But this is going to be on the inside of the card, and they turned out just, I'm really impressed with how these turned out. I'll take the coordinating dies and die cut all of these flowers. There are some leaf branches also in this BetterPress plate and die set. I did not use those this time. Now I'm being a little careful about where I put the Best Ever Craft tape, and these pieces have been used several times. But tape can pull up layers of the watercolor paper, so you want to be a little careful about that. And that is the largest flower, the grouping of 2, and the medium-sized flowers. We're going to take the smaller 2 groupings, and we're going to figure out how we want to place them on the inside of the card. Again, we want to pull the design from the front of the card to the inside of the card, and this makes it very easy. So if you've already gotten this plate and die set, you could easily incorporate the registration set to your collection to have a lot more flexibility and a whole lot more designs you could do. We're going to trim off the extra here hanging off the edges. I love it when I find things in my set or in my collection that coordinate so well together, and you can see that this is exactly the same flower as this large one on the registration set. So if you wanted to layer that, you absolutely could. Next, we're going to use the Blooming Garden registration BetterPress. And I dug through my stash and found this Friendship Garden from April of 2023. This is the clear stamp and die of the month from that month. And it is exactly the same design with a die that will also cut out this grouping of flowers. Again, I've taped my registration guide to the plate. We're going to use Thunder again, and I'm going to ink up all of the leaves on this large plate. One of the benefits of this paper guide here is I don't get any ink on my base, so I don't have to worry about staining it even more. Making sure that's good and inky, we'll run that through the die machine, and you can see your beautiful crisp results. I will wipe off this plate a little bit before I put it back on the packaging. Next, we're going to use that center grouping of flowers, and I'm going with a bolder color choices this time. We're using this teal as the first color. We'll run that through the die cut machine again. We'll clean that a little bit. I'm trying not to get water on the paper because that might make it disintegrate, and that would make this harder to do. Now we've got these 3 little groupings of flowers to add. Just placing those in the marks on the guide. This makes it so foolproof. And then we're using this orange color here. I think it's orange. Yeah, pretty sure it's orange. And adding some ink to those plates. And once again, put the plate back on top, run it through the die machine, and there is our finished BetterPressing. Next, I'm taking out my Koi watercolors, and we're going to watercolor this whole image. It took me about probably 10 minutes to do the whole thing. Just going to use some blues, oranges, yellows, purples, and I'm just trying to stay inside the lines. Now the BetterPress inks are waterproof, so this is perfect. You don't have to worry about those smearing at all. And I love that the flowers have the color that I'm going to create the flower themselves. The flower outlines are the right color for the flower. Sometimes you want all of that to just coordinate. Now if you wanted to watercolor without having to use watercolors, you could use Distress Oxides to do your BetterPressing on watercolor paper, and then use some water to pick up the color from the outline. That would work very well also. You might not get as solid a coverage, and it might be a little more washed out, but that would work too. I'm using some reds and orange here for the littler flowers. I used a blue and a purple for the large cup-shaped flowers. And I did do the blue first on one of them and then add the purple. And this time I am adding the purple, and I will come back and fill in with the blue. I wasn't sure how much of this image I was going to paint when I first started this. And this is not like when I'm watercoloring on watercolor paper and I plan to stamp over the top of it. This is as crisp as the outlines are going to be, because you can't really paint it and then run it back through the BetterPress system unless you left it taped to the plate and did your watercoloring and left your guide exactly where it was. Then you could go back. Ooh, that's something I might have to try at a later date. You could go back and sharpen up your lines with another impression that way. I'm adding some purple, just purple to those bulb or berry type flowers, just yellow to those fan type flowers, and then a more dilute yellow to the bell shaped flowers. I did finish adding green to all of the greenery. Almost done here. I will dry this with my heat tool before I die cut it with this coordinating die. I was so happy to discover that this die was available. It's actually still available in the Spellbinders shop, so if you didn't get it, you could still pick it up, and the stamp set. Next, we're going to take Salty Ocean and Prize Ribbon, which coordinate really well with the blue and the purple that I used to paint on this image. And we're going to ink blend this 4.5 by 6.5 inch. Actually, I think it's 5 by 7, and then I cut it down later. A piece of white cardstock. This is going to be for the front of the card behind our main image. I like to use an acrylic block to hold my paper down without getting my fingerprints all over the ink. I just like to use that as my pressure point instead of my fingertips. Just getting this really nicely inked. And then I will die cut that down to 4.5 by 6.5, and we're going to run it through the branching out embossing folder. This is from the embossing folder of the month from January of 2024, and we're going to use this lavender blue opal polish. I don't know if you can get this color anymore. There's a wisteria blue available in the Spellbinders shop, and I'll have that linked in the description box below. I'm adding that to the raised area. These are just a bunch of leaves, and I thought that matched very nicely. Didn't compete with the flowers. I do let this dry for a few minutes before I add some extra cardstock behind it before I put it on our card base. Then I took a scrap of white hammer mill cardstock, and I am ink blending it with the prized ribbon because I want to glimmer hot foil my sentiment on here. Now that I have a big enough piece ink blended, we'll pull out the plate I want to foil. You can foil with all of your BetterPress plates also, and they do a stunning job. So I'm going to tape this down to our piece of cardstock, and I have my preheated platform. I'll let the timer run and then put that through the die cut machine. And here's our gorgeous sentiment. Next, I took the Precision Layering Mini Slimline A die set, and I am using the smallest, I believe, die from this set. I actually could have gone one size up on the, I think I would have had to use the set B. This cuts right up to the foiling edges. I'm going to trim off the shaped ends just with my scissor. It's not perfect, but it does not have to be. It looks fantastic when you're looking at your looking at your card. Now it's time to start assembling our card. I did add that extra cardstock on the back of this panel. I'm adding some glue to the back of that. We'll center that nicely on our 5x7 card base. And then I'm going to put my Misty on top of that just for some extra pressure while it dries. I did add an extra layer of scrap cardstock behind our main image, and I had die cut that with the same die. I'm going to center this sort of more towards the top, and we'll add our sentiment at the bottom. This is not really an out-of-the-box kind of arrangement. It's just the way I was picturing it, and I think I could have added a little more to it, but sometimes enough is enough, right? We're going to use tumbled glass Distress Oxide to stamp the stamp on the inside of the card to make it all coordinated. This is one of the wonderful things that I found. Having a coordinating stamp makes this so much easier to make the inside of the card coordinate with the outside of the card. I got a nice solid stamping here. I used a stamp platform that is open on two sides to enable me to put my 5x7 card in there. Next, I found some iridescent rhinestones, and I'm adding those to the centers of the orange flowers just for that little added extra oomph. I'm using two different sizes here. I'm using a larger one on the larger flowers and a slightly smaller one on the smaller flowers. Love that pickup stick for that. I just used the Barely Art precision glue to place those, and that is completed my card number 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, now is a great time to do that. And I'd love to hear in the comment section what your favorite part of this video was. If you're interested in any of the product that I used today, they will be listed and linked in the description box below. There will also be a link to a visual list that you can go to. Sometimes my list is too long to fit. Until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.